Welcome to PlanStrongerTV. I'm your host, David Holland. The financial success of small businesses isn't just important for their owners. These businesses are often called the heart of the American economy because they create 75% of the new jobs in the United States. I'm joined on today's program by author and business planning expert Randy Long to discuss how small business owners can better prepare for the future. Let's roll. All right, welcome to the program. Very special edition of PlanStrongerTV for you today because we're going to talk business. We talk a lot about financial stuff on the show, but we're going to talk about business. So I'm very excited to bring in a special guest. Let me introduce you to Randy Long. Randy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you. So your background is kind of an interesting mix. Attorney, JD.
Yeah.
Certified financial planner, and also certified exit planner.
Correct.
So you spend a lot of your time doing business succession planning and planning for business owners.
We do, a lot.
All right, and you've been on my radio program. We've done that in the past, and one of the things that struck me was your perspective on planning for an exit, and you call it the Braveheart exit. Why do you call it that?
I call it the Braveheart exit because I think that as a business owner, it takes guts to be in business, first of all. You're out, you're the one that puts your net worth online every day, you sign the checks. You know, you have to do the things that everybody else at Joe Lunch Bucket goes home at 5 and they don't worry about what's happening at work. And then also, I call it the Braveheart part because in the United States, basically, our country was sort of pushed forward by the freedom side, freedom of religion, freedom of everything, pretty much. And that created the opportunity for self-employment that the world has never known, frankly.
And that's what brought in the capitalist system.
It did. And that engine from the 1800s pushed us into the country that we are today.
I'm glad it did, because I like what we do. So in the work you do, your office is based in North Carolina?
I have offices in North Carolina and California.
All right, wonderful. Yes. And in the work you do a lot of work with the business owners, and you're helping them plan this Braveheart exit. And you've also written the book, The Braveheart Exit.
We did.
All right,
yeah.
So in the work you've done, what I'd like for us to do today is to talk with the business owners out there, but also for people who are employed by small businesses. You know, it's been said that the small businesses are the backbone of America.
Yes, they are.
So for people who are somehow involved with a small business, what are some of the important parts for us to keep in mind about a successful business transition? Because you can't do it forever.
No, you can't. And everybody's going to have an exit. The question is whether or not they're going to exit well. And so much of a business owner's net worth typically is tied up in the business. Usually it's like 70 to 90%. So you can plan the personal side well and still not do a great job on your overall finances if you don't plan for the business, the transition and the exit. We hate to see business owners work for their career and then just close a business or sell it for way less than it should have been sold because they didn't prepare. So it's really important that business owners think about and plan ahead. And we like to have 3 to 10 years of a runway, if you will, to start working on that. Because most business owners, if they get out and they don't do well, they're unhappy with the transition because they either rushed it, usually because they rushed it, or they didn't plan. And most transactions, if they fail in like a third-party sale, if the sale fails, it fails because they're not prepared.
I see.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. So for business owners out there who are watching this program, let's say they've had their business for 5 to 10 years, they need to be thinking about an exit even while they're thinking about still growing their business.
Most definitely. As a matter of fact, the way that you grow that business and the mindset that you have by doing it, it works best when you have the end in mind. Because all the things that are going to make the business worth more money are also going to increase your chances for the opportunity of a successful exit.
Okay. I think it would be, and you shared it earlier, I want to say it again for our viewers, because I think a lot of people don't realize, unless you've been an entrepreneur, unless you've been in that, that equation, or you've been the one who signs the checks, if you will, who is the ultimate backstop for the business, I don't think a lot of people realize just how much of an entrepreneur or business owner's life and finances and a lot of their self-value is tied up in the business.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. And a lot of people will say, of course, well, I don't want to leave my business. It's like my child,
Yeah.
And so, but again, everybody's going to leave, so we might as well plan to do it and to do it well. And we like to tell our business owners, too, that we want them to plan to go to something, not just from something.
Sure.
And which is a big deal, and I know that you work with that quite a bit yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a important point.
Yeah, if I can get to the business owner before they sell their business, my first question to them is going to be, let's look at what outcomes you want to achieve, how much are we going to need to extract from the business, how are you planning on structuring the arrangement. All of those things that I know you work with every day are going to be so important so that they know where they're headed after they've made the sale.
Right, so one of the things that we like on the mindset side of things has to do with starting to look at your business through the eyes of a buyer. Too often business owners look at their business as though they are the customer, or even from their own perspective.
Sure.
But when a third-party buyer is going to come in and purchase your company, they're going to look at that company in ways which you haven't considered. And so you might as well get ahead of that, because as we like to say, capital is a coward. And because capital is a coward, that means you need to start structuring your company in such a way that it's worth more money, the opportunity of growth is greater, but the risk to the investor is less.
I see. Does that play into the part about how a business owner needs to separate their function from owning the business and the role they take in the business?
Yeah, in the long run, we like our business owners to get to the point where they're working on the business more than in it. And if they don't ever reach the point where they can work on the business and they're just too important to the business on a day-to-day basis, they will never get the price that they should have for their company. And on top of that, it'll be very difficult to transition that business to a child, too.
Sure.
So, the reasons are the same, ultimately.
You would narrow your potential buyers substantially if you can't make it more transferable, right?
Definitely, and you also reduce the multiple that you're likely to get on we call it EBITDA, or earnings, if you will, times something. And a lot of business owners think, well, my business is going to transition at 3x or 5x or 7x or whatever the industry is. But businesses aren't sold on industry averages. They're sold individually.
Sure.
And so individual businesses are going to be judged individually. And if a business owner is really important to the management or the running of that company, they are going to get on the very low end of what that company could have gotten relative to somebody that has a full management team, that the business doesn't need the owner at all.
You get a lot less for selling a job than you do a business.
Yes, you do. That's well said.
You almost have to find a clone of yourself if you're trying to have somebody else come in and be in that same capacity.
Actually, I want to find somebody better than me.
Okay.
And I want to divide. Typically what we do is we'll take the business owner and we'll split his role. Because usually, and entrepreneurs, especially if it's first generation, they're doing too many things. And so we have to start...
Agreed.
Yes,
Agreed.
They're doing too many things. We have to start separating pieces of their job off of them and creating more roles and more roles and more until the business owner's out of work. That's where I want him to be.
Is that part of his job?
Absolutely it is. That is part of his job. And his job is to be unnecessary. Other than, I liked if the company's going to transition to the family, that's great. And then he can continue to be a visionary for the family. But I ultimately don't want him working until he's 89 and then the kid retires before he does. I hate those,
Yeah.
So.
We have a running joke in my office that I say to my team that I'd like, I'd like to clone myself because I'd like to have one David do this and one David do that and one David do that. And they go, please no, please no, we don't want any more Davids. But I think the spirit is recognizing that there are multiple tasks that the entrepreneur has.
There are. And also the skill sets that a business owner typically brings. It is a different mindset, a different risk tolerance, if you will, usually when they start, that sort of thing. But as we like to bring in a management team that we'll call it next level management team.
Okay.
So the business owner takes the company to the place where he can take it, and at some point he's got to transition that either to another person or hopefully a team that will expand and grow and deepen all the things that he did.
Very good. So if you do these things, I want to kind of give a little bit of a forward thought on this. If we can get these things right, what are some of the outcomes? I mean, what's going to be the goal here, that pot of gold? What are some of the outcomes we get if we can take the time to plan ahead? And you're talking about a long runway before.
I am.
So what do we get?
Yeah, so the business owners, they need to answer a few questions up front here. One of them is, to whom do they want to transition or sell? When do they want to do that? And thirdly, how much do they need from that sale or transition to be able to reach their financial goals as a husband and wife, if you will, or a family? And so those are kind of the intro questions, but that goes back then to beg the question of, what is my net worth? What is the company worth? And what is my net worth apart from the company? So once we can determine what the value is, and this is not the owner making a guess, by the way.
Right.
This is an actual valuation done.
A professional.
Yes, sir, with professionals. And that's part of doing this kind of work is that we build teams. And one of the pieces that we need on the team is somebody that does valuation work.
Okay.
So if we can know what the net worth is, the valuation on the company is, that gives us a total. And of course, this needs to be considered after tax, by the way.
Right.
Because too many business owners plan for how much they're going to get from the sale of their company, not realizing that they're going to take a substantial hit to some of that in tax. So once they figure those things out, then that information then can be given to a wealth manager. The wealth manager can help them determine what kind of money they need to sustain the lifestyle that they're hoping to sustain.
Or what they can do with how much they're going to get.
That's correct.
For lifestyle. Give me one of the variables and we'll solve for the other.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere. And so once you get those pieces in place, then we start doing sort of the reverse engineering to get to what that goal needs to be. Because too often there is a gap.
And there might be a timing question. Say, okay, based on all of this, we need to wait one more year.
Right, or two or three. Yeah, it really does depend. And we'd like to have, we also like to introduce the idea of what we call the 1% solution, right? The 1% solution is the idea that if you as a business owner are going to invest 1%, let's say to have a pension plan managed, but if your business, which makes up typically 70 to 90% of your net worth, if that is going to be your biggest asset, then you should be spending 1 to 2% of the value of that business every year to enhance its growth and its opportunities for you and the family.
I'll bet most business owners are surprised to hear you say that.
They are, and most of them, they have to be willing to spend money on this to prepare for it. We typically would work with, and I know you know what this resonates with you, the idea of stewardship.
Sure.
So the family steward kind of people, those are the people that understand this is not all about them. It also is about them, their family, their employees, you know, the people that have invested with them and for them. So there's a kind of a big picture there that you need to take into consideration. But the whole thing about this is that if it's worth building a business, it's worth building it well. Sure. And it's also worth consulting with people that can add value and measure, you know, anything that is measured typically does better. And
That's
so
true.
Getting a valuation on that company every year or two gives you a benchmark against which you can measure your growth and success.
On the valuation, how often because I know you do a lot of work with many business owners and this kind of thing, how often are business owners surprised either positively or negatively on the value of their business?
Very often, frankly.
Is it one way or the other?
Yeah, most business owners overestimate the value of their companies. We've had a few that have severely underestimated the value, and that has to do with if the company is big enough to be able to sell into to a company that sits on the S&P 500 or is on the exchanges.
Okay.
Then if you can take a company that typically sells in its industry on the small side, let's say at 6 times earnings, but the company that buys them can add that company to them and they trade it at 12x, they just got a big jump in value. Right, and that also allows us then, if we can get the company to the point where we can sell it into a S&P 500 company or S&P 100 company, or even a large mid-sized one, the the bigger the company gets, the better the multiple tends to be.
I got you.
Follow me?
So you got to get up to a certain level. It's like, you know, like you got to get to this minimum number to then attract attention from this different population of potential buyers.
That is exactly right.
Interesting. Now, those are all very positive things. What about if we don't get this right? There's a lot of downside, right, for the small business owner?
Yeah, there is a lot of downside. This is part of the reason why this is kind of like mission to me.
Why you do what you do.
Yes, I do, because too often business owners will close a business. Like I had a guy call me about 3 months ago, and I don't even know why he called, but he called to say, you know, I should have called you, but I was making $750,000 a year in my business, and I just didn't know. I had no children. I didn't know how to transition it, and I didn't want anybody to get hurt in it, so I just closed it.
Wow.
And I helped everybody find jobs.
Wow.
And, you know, that kind of a thing just
Yeah.
tears me up, you know.
Yeah. Can we go back in time?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that the business owner is adequately planned so that they have the ability to leave both a financial legacy to add to what should be already a family legacy. And we talk about that too quite a bit in our business, is making sure that they're balancing those things between family and money, family and business. Because I've also dealt with way too many people over the course of my career where they got the business side right, but their kids don't want to talk to them and they can't see the grandkids.
Ugh.
And that is really a sad thing. So make sure as a business owner that you put your family ahead of your business. In the long run, it'll pay off.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. You know, it's difficult for business people because, you know, when they leave the office, if it's 4, 5, 6, 7 at night, you know, they don't leave it. It's almost like a parasite that is attached to the business owner.
Well, I like to tell my clients, listen, I'd like you to go listen to the Cats in the Cradle. You ever heard the song?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just Google that, Cats in the Cradle, and listen to that about every month, and that'll remind you that as you're going about your busy schedule and avoiding your kids and your family, that one of these days you'll pay for that.
Yeah. Well, another reference, a contemporary reference to an Eagles song, every form of refuge has its price.
Yes, it does.
So, you know, there's nothing that's free. There's always a cost, and there's constant trade-offs. And, you know, this whole idea of work-life balance, and, you know, it is a blend. And I think for a business owner, though, especially business owners that started in the corporate world, it's hard to let go of some of that, you know, work.
Yeah, it is. You know, thinking about the family, the transition too, if you have a family business that you hope to transition to one of your children, it's really a gift to them and to the family at large, because you get to leverage generational capital. So what you've learned, what your grandfather learned, I have clients in the 4th, 5th generation, you know, that have done this well. And transitioning that intellectual capital over the generations makes it easier for the family to sustain the company and to sustain the wealth. And also, we know that family businesses that are sold, the money comes in, and too often the kids turn out to be what we call trust babies.
Yeah.
And they lose that sort of fire in the belly, and too many of them don't work, and the family goes to hell in a handbasket, you know. So we really do like to have the business owners keep it and transition it to the extent possible, because it keeps the family on the cutting edge, if you will.
Yeah, because especially if that's been part of what you call the inculcation of the family into this, and their understanding what it takes to make it work.
Yeah, and it's also another thing that binds the family. It's just that communication is a really big deal, and you want to make sure that you don't let kids go to their own corners, you know, and everybody, too often, especially these days, everybody's a victim.
Yeah.
Everybody's a victim.
Yeah.
And so anything that if they're not chosen for leadership or whatever the case is, then everybody wants to fight.
Yeah.
But if you can get them early enough and make everybody understand what's the right thing for the family and the business, most of the family will come along.
Excellent. Well, very good, Randy. Randy Long, ladies and gentlemen, helping us understand how to make a Braveheart exit. Thank you very much for coming and being with us here in our studios in Daytona Beach. Thank you,
Yes,
Randy.
sir. Love the time with you.
Thank you. One more thing before you go, and I think you'll like this. I was dreaming when I wrote this. Forgive me if it goes astray. But when I woke up this morning, could have sworn it was Judgment Day. The sky was all purple. There were people running everywhere, trying to run from the destruction. You know, I didn't even care. Say 2000, party over. Oops, out of time. So tonight I'm going to party like it's 1999. Everybody's got a bomb. We could all die any day. Oh, but before I let that happen, I'll dance my life away. Yes, those are the lyrics from the 1999 song sung by the late, great Prince Rogers Nelson, also known to us just as Prince. Be glad I didn't try to sing it to you, but anyhow, I think it's a great way to talk about investing and planning for tomorrow. You know, the financial planning industry puts so much emphasis on saving for tomorrow that sometimes we forget that we need to dance a little today. Maybe we should party like it's 1999, but also plan like it's 2000. If you recall, the late 1990s were a very strong period for the stock market. Then in 2000, we entered a 3-year downturn that erased nearly 50% of the stock market's value. So yes, please party like it's 1999, but plan for a 3-year period like 2000 to 2002. The truth is, a stock market correction is always just around the corner. I've been told that public television shows might air and be replayed on different stations for more than 3 years. So by the time you watch this program, it could be that we're in the middle of another financial meltdown. So what do? Well, there's a lot of specific steps that you should take that will depend on your situation. From my practical experience, however, there are some things I think you can do that can help. And so here are some of them. First, establish an emergency fund. It's called an emergency fund for a reason. Emergencies happen, and emergencies aren't always predictable, not only in when they happen, but in nature of what they are. We don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something that maybe we just can't anticipate. Therefore, we reserve for the unexpected, not only in terms of when, but what. The second one, don't go all in on any one investment. You see me, I'm praying and pleading to you not to go in on any one thing. No big bets, especially when you're close or in retirement. It's just not worth the risk and trying to catch up for maybe not having saved it enough along the way is no time to be risky. Number 3, keep 50% of your money liquid. Why? Well, remember I said emergencies happen? We need a backup emergency fund. What if the emergency is bigger than we might have anticipated, right? That would make sense. We've got to have liquidity. I've never seen a situation where a financial plan had too much liquidity. We've got to have the ability to get to money if something comes up. Number 4, align your funds to be both short, medium, and long-term, and to match how you invest to your goals. So it is okay, I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not. It is okay to commit money to longer-term goals, but you obviously still need to keep some of your money liquid. Now, if you need to spend some of your principal during retirement, you've got to shift some of that risk of running out of money out of being something that's going to hurt you. So we want to shift that risk and maybe look at ways of having a transfer of that risk, maybe to an insurance company or something like that. Now, one of the other things that's really critical when you're thinking about your retirement and how you might adjust to different situations is to test your plan. Test it. What if this happens? What if that happens? Of course, this is the role of an advisor, that they help you consider different scenarios. And that brings me really to the next point, which is to get help where and when you need it. You need to be able to get help to know what you don't know. That's probably one of the most important things about financial planning or planning for the future, is that you can't know everything, and you've got to know, though, those things that you can't really anticipate or expect. So whenever we get outside of our area of expertise, if you are a CPA or a lawyer or a doctor or a real estate person, whatever your particular specialty or training that you've gained to do what you do in life, when we get outside of those areas, it becomes more difficult to know what we don't know. Because in the financial world, for example, I know what I don't know. And there are things that I don't know, but I know where to get them, and I know where I need to do a little more research. I know where I might need some help. But when we're not as experienced with something, we don't know those areas of weakness. And this is why sometimes people get hurt when they get outside of their expertise. So when you are planning and preparing for what may come, make sure that you get help when you need it. And again, I think we should party like it's 1999. Retirement planning, saving for the future is not all, sacrifice. Have fun along the way, enjoy your money, work hard and enjoy the fruits of your labor, but don't forget that bad days could be ahead. We want to be prepared for those. And if you do that, you know what I'm going to say. You'll plan stronger.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.